Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
Hey, Danielle Walker here. I'd love for you to check out my online boutique, Lux Lion. My mission for Lux Lion is to showcase innovative African designers and sustainable mission-driven brands. To do that, I bring you stunningly beautiful handcrafted jewelry and accessories from some of my absolute favorite places on earth. Small batch wholesale for storefronts is also available. Join me in celebrating African artistry and shop now at luxlion.us. Use promo code FREEDOM for an additional 10% off your purchase. Welcome to the State of Freedom, everybody, where we are grounded in faith and the Constitution, and we are committed to the core principles of giving voice to truth, living with courage, and taking action. It is Tuesday, September 23rd. It's 10 a.m. Central. I'm Danielle Walker, and I'm joined by my dear friend and co-host, Chris Alexander. We are coming to you live on Voice of the People TV and radio network, Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. If you're catching us later, you can listen to us on our podcast platforms like Spotify, Podbean, and Apple Podcasts. Wherever you're listening or watching, please give us a like, a thumbs up, and a share. It helps us out. Give us a Rumble rant if you're on Rumble. Comment in the chat. We want to hear from you. Well, today, buckle up. We are going to be having a conversation about the extraordinary extent of corruption, fraud, and treasonous actions against America at the hands of installed politicians. Let me bring on our guests. Joining us today are two absolutely incredible and brilliant patriots. Walter Charlton is 95 years young. He's a Supreme Court qualified attorney. He was also, until last year when he gave up his license, a CPA. So he is uniquely qualified to understand the manipulation that has been seen in our recent election results. And you know Draza Smith, she was with us not too long ago. She's an engineer. She's a brilliant computer mind, and she has figured out how they are stealing our elections. Welcome, Walter and Draza, to the show. It's such an honor to have you with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, before we get into it, sorry, Draza, there might be a little bit of a delay, so we'll try and bear with that. But before we get into it, let me read the scripture of the day. It is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 11 through 12. And it says, aspire to lead a calm and peaceful life as you mind your own business and earn your living, just as we taught you. By doing this, you will live an honorable life, influencing others and commanding respect of even the unbelievers. Then you will be in need of nothing and not dependent upon others. And that's a familiar passage for a lot of us. But in this passage, Paul was instructing the church in Thessaloniki on matters of personal character, to keep the promises they make, not to meddle in the lives of other people. But unfortunately, this passage has been used by believers and even pastors as proof that we should not be engaged in politics or the governance of our country. And I believe we've learned in a very clear and painful way over the last 5 years, especially, that when the church ignores the political realm, it makes it completely impossible to live a calm and peaceful life where we mind our own business, because we leave a vacuum in that space. And then we are governed, as we have been, by chaos, corruption, greed, perversion, and all manner of insanity. When Jesus talks about his church in the New Testament, he doesn't use the word church. That's kind of a later invention. He used the word ecclesia, which is a governing or legislative body. It's a political assembly that gathers and rules for the benefit of the entire society. And that's what we are to be as a body of believers, ones who are engaged and determine the direction of our culture according to the Word of God for the benefit of our communities and our nation. We're not supposed to be people who gather in a building and never impact the people and the society around us.
Yes, we are not supposed to exist, Danielle, in an echo chamber and keep our heads buried in the sand, are we?
Yeah.
And St. Paul's message today is certainly not that. And the guests that we have on today know full well that election security and election fraud in America is all of our business
Yeah.
because it directly affects all of us. And so I just want to take a second also to welcome Walter Charlton and Draza Smith. Walter is has been an attorney for well over 60 years now, and probably accomplishes more before 10 a.m. than most people do half his age all day long. I was so impressed with our conversation yesterday. And I don't know if you know this about Walter, Danielle, because I don't know if you mentioned this yesterday, but I read it about him. He actually sued the Federal Reserve and won.
That's
And that is
amazing.
something I don't know any other lawyers who've ever done that. It's just talk about his skill. And of course, Draza, who was on the show, as you said recently, uh, both of these great Americans have been at the tip of the spear on election fraud in America and have done so much work raising public awareness about really the system in which we are living. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Let me start
Draza, your
here.
sound, one second, Chris. Draza, your sound is very low for me. I don't know if it is for you, Chris. Can you hear her?
I can hear Draza, but it is faint.
Okay.
But I can hear her. Um, uh, Mr.
Well, I'm
Walter.
pleased to be here. I didn't mean to leave it out. I was letting Draza go first.
Oh, well, we're just so thrilled to have you both here together. I want to ask a question to start off here, Mr. Charlton, to you, based on a conversation we had yesterday. I want to make sure I understood this correctly. Um, Many of the elected officials who are running our government in America now are not legitimately elected by the American people.
Well, yeah, that's true. But that leads to a much larger question because you got to be a little precise with that. If, for example, you start with the preposition that, or proposition, I guess it'd be a preposition or rule that anything fraudulent, and this is supposed to be the rule in the federal courts and in the Constitution and so forth, anything fraudulent, any action fraudulent is void ab initio. Now, so I hate to start with a Latin phrase, but what that means is from the very beginning. Now, big problem. Okay, since there's undisputed evidence at this point in time, or at least overwhelming evidence, to the effect that the big cheat has been going on since at least the turn of the century. Well, how do you unvote anybody? How do you defrock them when half of them are dead by now? You know, it's
But if you're
rare
a
to
Democrat,
get
but if you're a Democrat, possibly still voting, Mr. Walter, even
well,
if you're dead.
yeah. So the cutoff date it's almost just got to be the cutoff start date has got to be kind of an arbitrary start. Now, what we did arbitrarily, and I think Draza actually made the decision, and it was a practical decision. Where does our data start? And the data we started with was, I think it's 1,499 days. Is that correct, Draza? I think it is. Anyway,
We went back to January 1999.
All right. So anyway, that kind of starts this off. And then you get to the question, well, the dog catchers and the judges where they're elected and the county commissioners and whatever you got all across the country. The first cycle of these is long gone, and the fraud, whatever it happened to be, if it existed, is long it's not over because it's continuing. We've found the whole process continues from at least that start date. And how I got started in it starts this up. And I saw a presentation by Dr. Douglas Frank, and his data starts at the turn of the century. Now, if this mess we got here starts at the turn of the century, who is legitimately elected and who isn't, is a real hard problem for the Supreme Court, among others. So this is the environment we're walking into and with this discussion here today. Now, just to finish it off where we actually started, I picked the day of July the 4th, 2023 as our start date. And since it was a holiday, it actually started the next day, July the 5th. So basically, everything that we talk about here today has that start date, and the ending cycle for the particular problem you're talking about is a jillion different start and stop dates for every particular election you're talking about.
Yeah.
And just to set the framework a little bit further, purportedly, all of the financial matters and start with the donations that are tracked. The money coming in are tracked with their donations to the Federal Election Commission, FEC for short, who gets what I would call a shadow copy of every donation everybody made. Now, so when you start with something like fraud, and you start with election fraud, and you start with money, then you talk about tracing the money, or the best proxy for the money is the FEC data and all of the other data that's available in state records and other records from checks and so forth that are supposed to be noted.
Mr. Walter, there's
to be audited.
Are y'all
Anyway,
getting some
that's
interference?
the environment.
Mr. Walter, there's a lot of interference coming from your feed. Do you have maybe your cell phone near a microphone or something?
I do. I'll tell you what, I'll unplug my cell phone.
If you just maybe move it away from your computer, that might stop it. Although it hasn't stopped it. It's still going on.
The devil hates hearing the truth.
I know.
I'm sorry, I don't know where I got all kinds of stuff right around the computer.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can carry on. I was hoping that would be a simple fix, but it's all right.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure. Well, my sound system is, I guess that's the input and the output. The sound system is also sitting right next to the computer.
Okay.
I can turn it down a little bit.
We can see if it does something.
Yeah.
Are we okay?
Well, it's about the same.
Well, I haven't changed it yet. I turned it down. Is that okay?
I don't think it must be the thing that's interfering. I'm not sure where the interference is coming from.
Okay, well, hold on.
Oh, that
Here.
maybe.
That's my headset.
Okay.
Right next to it. Now it's not.
Oh yeah, that's better. Way better.
Now
okay.
we're talking.
Beautiful. Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's
I
all
don't
good.
do this very often. And usually I put my headset on because I'm hard of hearing, among my other difficulties.
Oh, we got you loud and clear now.
All right. I don't know where I left off, but what
You
I
were
tried
talking
to
about, well, Mr. Walter, you were talking about the nature of the fraud and in the FEC reporting and in the financials.
okay. Is it still
I can give some
happening?
Yeah.
background. I can give some background on what he's speaking about. I know at this point in time, a lot of people have heard about the Act Blue slash WinRed issues that have been going on, but the basis of it is that when we started looking at the data, the FEC, as Walter said, gets this shadow copy, but what it is it's reporting of donations that people are making to any campaign or committee, which are NGOs, that are receiving money from what should be individuals. And when they receive these donations, these are not tax deductible donations. But they're supposed to be reported for election laws to see where the money's coming from to make sure that all of the money received is obeying election laws, that we're not receiving money from foreign donors, and that we don't have certain people donating more than their fair share, trying to buy more influence and such. And if that was all followed, that would be wonderful. But what we found is we found incredible amounts of donations that came in from individuals listed as retired or unemployed or not employed that were making thousands of donations, sometimes a day. So the scope of this, it's being filtered through uh, now the FEC data only handles the federal elections. So if you have someone running from Louisiana for a federal office, your Senate, your House seats, you would see that there. You would have to look at your state ethics for the state contributions, but we see that this happening in the state contributions as well. So the FEC data that we're talking about, with the huge numbers that we're talking about, is only for the federal elections. And the federal committees like Angie's List that seeks to put pro-abortion women in office and judicial committees, they're getting incredible amounts of donations filtered in from all over. The frequency is what's exceptional at like $12.50 a pop. But when you have that coming in 100 times a month from each individual, and then it's spread out among all these individuals all across the country, it's like an army of ants.
Yeah.
The first person that brought this to my attention called it "Death of America" by $12.50 a donation. Just to give you an example, we pulled 5 donors. So these are just five donors from each state. So 5 donors from all 50 states. And we added up the total number of transactions that they had made over the course of the last 2 election cycles. And the 5 people, this is just 5 of the people that show this manipulation, which we believe is donations being made in their name, not by them, comes to 2,287,227 individual donations.
Wow.
5 people from each state. And the total amount that comes in then is $36,346,308. This was just a sample of 5, and this isn't even necessarily the 5 largest donors from each state. We just did it as a sample. So the magnitude of the money that's coming in, and when people are spoken to and interviewed, they say, it's not my money. And some people are honest and say that they would be donating to these causes if they had the money. But many people just don't have any idea whatsoever, and it's a shocking amount of money
Yeah.
that's being flooded into our elections and into the NGOs that provide support and advertising and whatnot for the election.
A question for both of you on this. So you think about what we've learned and what's been uncovered by you, Draza, over the last 4 or 5 years, that not only, for instance, in the elections were votes being inserted for Biden or Kamala, but votes were also being removed for Trump. So that leads me to the question of, do you think the same, have you investigated as whether the same thing was happening for funds? So we know that money was being inserted for these selected candidates that whoever the powers that be are want to be installed into these political positions of power. Were they likewise taking money away, skimming money from candidates who were pro-Constitution, conservative candidates, not viable candidates? Has that been looked at?
Let me address that. Because I think this is kind of an audit and follow the money trail as distinguished from the vote trail. It's a different trail. I think the answer, and check me on this, I think the answer is no. It is not taking it away because first of all, you got to realize that this is the money we've tracked is not the real money itself. It's a report of the real money itself. Now that's supposed to be accurate, etc. But it only goes one direction. On the other hand, when you get into the other kind of cheating, the other 50 or 60 kinds of cheating, whereby, for example, in an electronic system, they manipulate the totals, the electronic totals, and they switch from a non-conservative, from a conservative vote to a non-conservative vote. Now, what you get there is a double whammy. That is, a switch vote is to be distinguished from a canceled vote. A switch vote is you get two bangs for the buck. And we had this discussion recently, and that gives you enormous leverage in a couple of ways that maybe Draza would like to discuss in some more detail, because she's got the details, not me.
So we've discussed this several times, and the important part about understanding that is, even if you have, this is especially important to Louisiana, that's a traditionally red state. So if you have votes that are now being electronically manipulated, moving from the money to the actual votes, if you have votes that are being manipulated, even if you have your conservative proposition or your conservative candidate being elected, even if they pass, what's happening now is you have a psychological effect that your candidate, even if you get this really great straight guy, or whatever, going up to Congress, now they are responsible for representing their constituents. They now have a mixed vision of what their constituents actually are. So now if they perceive that their constituents are much more liberal than the actual composition, they have to be concerned for several reasons. First, they have to be concerned that they're doing the right thing and representing their constituency, which may tamper down their fire and support of conservative values, even for Louisiana. They have to be concerned about re-election, which if they think that there are more liberals that are voting, that may affect some of their behavior. And then they have to also check that seat as a conservative seat. And if enough votes are switched that it looks like it's closer to a 50-50, then that puts them in a difficult situation just to protect the seat in general, even if it's not their personal re-election. So that would affect the tone and the background of the people that would be nominated for those seats. That you may not run someone as staunchly conservative if you believe that the composition of the voters is more borderline. So it affects the psychology of the continuance even more than the actual event of the election.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Draza, that is rarely brought up. even when a real conservative wins a race, the margin of victory, if it's relatively close, if the margin of victory is closer than it would be because of the fraud, then that certainly psychologically can affect the way a legislator votes, the way a legislator governs, and even more broadly, if you continue incrementally to increase the fraud, when finally the liberal wins the race, people are much less alarmed because the fraud has been incremental in nature.
That's the story of the purpling of Texas, if we're to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that is really interesting. Um, Draza, to get back to a point that you made a few minutes ago, and I know we discussed this previously, but again, to reiterate, the people who are purportedly making these donations on these online platforms, Act Blue, WinRed, and whoever else, but those seem to be the main ones, they are not actually making these donations. And more often than not, they're not even aware of the donations. And, you know, it just seems like, and I was talking to Danielle, and I know I'm going a little bit out of order here, but if this is occurring and these people do not know that their names and identities are being stolen for purposes of these political donations, um, at what point can we assume that the candidates themselves must be aware of this? I mean, if I'm a candidate running for office and you know my campaign committee sees the character and the nature of these donations, which are very suspicious, the way you've described them to us, at what point can we assume the candidates themselves must be aware of this?
Um, I, I, I have heard some people say that the candidates are more aware of it. Peter Berniger has been doing totals for different senators and House members and how much they have been receiving in this manner.
Yeah.
But it's not quite as obvious as maybe my initial discussion uh, would have described, because when you have this person making 100 donations a day, they're making the 100 donations a day and, you know, extrapolating that out to on the month to like 850 different campaigns and committees over the course of that month. So it's small donations that come in a very fractured manner. What we have found in order to avoid that kind of detection is that the people that we see that are that are used in this very odd kind of identity theft, they usually have these donations going to campaigns and committees outside of the state of their residency. One particular lady that I looked in at in Louisiana contributed over $100,000 in these small donations to over 800 different campaigns and committees. And the one campaign that she did not contribute to was the only sitting Democratic congressman in Louisiana.
Doesn't that and doesn't that make them even more suspicious, Draza?
But they're coming in these small donations, so you would not see the same person in your campaign contributing all these times. You'd see 100, 150,000 people, different people donating with these small amounts. And that encourages people to say that they have very broad support. It lends itself to
Sure.
that.
Yeah, it sounds like
And one,
like 80 or 90% of it coming in from people who don't live in their state.
and one of the other interesting things that has come out of that is that when you look at the criteria for being able to participate in, say, the national presidential primary debates, they have criteria set forth that you must receive so much donations from so many different states to show that you have enough support to participate in the national debates. And this was one of the levers that they used to keep Tulsi Gabbard off of the primary debates, if you remember when she was running for president on the Democratic ticket.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a uh, speaking of what we're talking about here, and I'm sure that you probably looked at this, Walter, and I'm sure you have, Draza, this very damning report by the House Oversight Committee and Judiciary Committee from April of this year. And it's difficult to imagine a more damning portrait of Act Blue and the corruption on this platform than is contained in this report. I mean, we're talking here about, I mean, apparently deliberate indifference to fraud that's occurring right in front of them, an effort to minimize, the disclosure of the fraud, the effort to subordinate fraud prevention to DEI standards. It's as though, I mean, it's like, and this report. But talk about the report. Either one of you can talk about this report. And also, one of the things that jumped out at me, and I was talking to Danielle about this morning, why does this report only include Act Blue? Why does this report not include WinRed, which is the
Uh,
Republican platform?
I'd like to talk about that a bit. Uh, Chris, I would suggest that, for an attorney, for attorneys talking about fraud, they hate talking about fraud because it's such a complex matter. It might simplify the discussion if you substitute the word felonies. Here's what the truth of the matter is legally. Every single deposit, whether it's 25 cents or $12.50 or $400,000, every transaction that comes in someone else's name violates Sarbanes-Oxley. It's a little chunk of fraudulent information matter that is contained in the record. Now,
Sarbanes-Oxley is something, forgive me, Walter, Sarbanes-Oxley is something so important for people to understand. Can you give a definition of Sarbanes-Oxley?
yeah, I can give just a quote from it. Not a quote, but specifics. It is a felony that's 5 years in jail, or this is not a slap on the wrist, for intentionally placing any false information in any federal government record or document. Now, think about the FEC, for example. They don't even have an audit. There is no audit. But if you are auditing the FEC, you're not auditing money, it's merely shadow money reporting, but it's a federal document. And it purports to show the results that everybody uses on all aspects of the election. Now, that same principle, Sarbanes-Oxley covers it all. It's not any election document, it's all documents. So that it isn't just the money flow we're talking about here, we're talking about the flow of information, all of which, including the psychology Draza just referred to, including the reports relied upon by media, all of it is a whole bunch of hooey, and I cleaned that up. It's just false. Every single item there carries with it to jail for 5 years. This is huge, big, enormous in terms of scope of it and magnitude of it and the evil that flows through this whole. And again, when the money goes in, that's enforcement. That's an identity theft. That's a whole other bunch of felonies. And when the money goes out, it's the processing of fraudulent money going in from God knows who, because you don't know where the money came from in Vince's sub audit, semi-audit of all of this. 2/3 of the people interviewed, and in a small sample from Maryland, but it's the same process everywhere. 2/3 of the people interviewed said, "No, I didn't manipulate that money. In fact, I don't even know who did it. It's not my money." Now, which money is it? Well, you can bet some of us sources money in there, and you don't need it. It's so ginormous in magnitude. Almost any alleged violation is true. I mean, this is not a hypothetical or a theory or something. This has enormous amount of evil of the money going in, the money going out, and how it's spread around, and the psychology of it drives everything. Now, I never said it was an Act Blue audit. The government picked that because now know who controls the government. It's Win Red. That's on the other hand, Roger's information covers all of it, and just as a strange anomaly, the highest donator with the most transactions in the state of Maryland turns out to be a Republican. So it wouldn't even have been in Act Blue. They're in Win Red.
And I
Well,
think you just answered the question, Walter. I think you just
Okay,
answered the
sorry, it
question
took so long,
why
but
WinRed is not being
that's
included.
Yeah.
Because
There's also a
WinRed
magnitude.
controls government.
There's also a magnitude when you do look at the total number of donations through the WinRed that appear to have this profile. It is less. So there is that, but I think that a more fair assessment would be that the focus is on Act Blue because of the people that have been willing to do the investigations and bring it forward to the congressional committees were focused on Act Blue, and then that was what the committees moved forward, the judicial and the House Oversight committees moved forward with.
Yeah.
And what's even more disturbing is something that we discussed yesterday on the phone, Walter. You laid it out for us, but the why people are being installed to me is one of the most disturbing pieces of this. Would you get into that a little bit?
I was in on that conversation yesterday, but at the moment I do not recall what the why means.
Why these people are being selected rather than elected? Why are they being installed into these positions, and what do they do when they get there?
You want my opinion on that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, sure. This is not a certified public accountant opinion or a legal opinion, but I think it's an obvious common sense opinion. The crooks are running the hen house, and they install who they want to install, and it's got nothing to do with capability. It really has nothing to do with anything except, I mean, I'll say it: the communists have got us. The cartel has just been disclosed that the Venezuelan cartel who's got more oil than anybody else in the whole world, and probably more money too, although I don't know about all that. They do what they want to do. And you talk about a scary thing. Now that's a scary thing. It's frightening is what it is.
And these are the people you mentioned. These politicians, particularly the ones in Congress, are the ones who are determining how our tax dollars get spent, who gets the contracts for our tax dollars. And so the web of corruption that you have laid out is just so vast that it's almost beyond comprehension.
It is so bad. And I can tell you from, this is not any audit experience, personal experience, that I happened to be there when starting the practice. Well, I know how all this started. If you want me to get into this at all? I
Sure.
do it quickly. And this is also a nightmare. So when I was starting the practice of law, I was hired by the senior auditors in the General Accounting Office, GAO. And we set up, or attempted to set up, a class action. And there was no such thing as computers at that time. So we were told, we were thought, God, this is a long dissertation, but I'll try to shorten it down. In any case, in that year, and I believe it was in the year 69 and 70, but I'm giving you that from memory, there were 2 bills passed in Congress where they removed the General Accounting Office, which was the finest auditing organization maybe the world has ever seen at that time. And some people in our firm, we hired them because they were so good and so forth. But anyway, they were getting defrocked, removed. The seniors were, because these 2 bills had taken the oversight of Congress out of the executive branch and moved it to the legislative branch. In other words, Congress was now the boss. Whoa, what does that do in terms of separation of powers? It takes the people who control the money, Congress, and gives them audit-free leave to do whatever they want. So this is not, or was not at that time, at least to my knowledge, it was not a Republican-Democrat thing. It was a power thing. Now, where are we? Well, everybody knows in the Washington area that congressmen go in poor if they can make the cut to get there. And every year it goes by, they get richer and richer and richer. Now, what has that got to do with what we're talking about? It's got everything to do with it. Because now we are at where we're at because of that. Okay? Sounds like I created a poem right there. But whatever. Now, Chris, I don't know whether that answered your question or not.
It's an excellent answer, Walter. In fact, I was talking to Danielle about what you just said before the show this morning, and what you're saying here is, the fox is guarding the hen house, and so can we not expect any real oversight of this massive amount of money that is being feloniously, to use your word, donated to these candidates on behalf of people who have no idea that it's being done? Will there be any oversight here? And what do you expect to come out of this?
Well, let me just give you another little snippet that just makes it a little bit worse. About this went before a wonderful guy named John Garrett Penn, a U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia. And Judge Penn, when he turned us down on the certification of the class, he said, "I'm sorry, but sorry, the phone rang. I'm sorry, but I have to deny this." And the case went along for about 5 more years, and some guys from Kansas City hired me, and I did another set of discovery. and I found out that there was a guy, a doctor, PhD. I've got to turn this off. Hold on just a minute. Totally disrupted my chain of thought, but I'll get it back.
Yeah, you were talking about your case before the
It was
judge.
the doctor that I should take his deposition. I took his deposition, and he said all of the information that you were given by the GAO defense team, which was DOJ, was false. They had a personnel system all this time that so they lied to you about certifying your class. This case went. I'm going to turn that.
Well, we know that's not the GAO office calling you.
I don't know who's it's. I'm pretty sure it's not a female admirer.
I wouldn't be
You
too
never
sure
know.
about that, Walter.
So anyway, it went to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit under the chief judge, who is of some fame at this point, and they did an opposition, and they based on putting all the false information in that they first put it in there, and I took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, we prepared a story just like I told you right here, and the Supreme Court, we were in the arena where at 750 to 1, the odds are pretty bad on getting a motion for certiorari granted. So lo and behold, I filed my briefs, and the Solicitor General's office, and I know the name of the guy who wrote the brief from the Solicitor General's office, but I'm not going to give it to you because I might get sued or killed or worse. Who knows? I don't know how to make my telephone.
They're just reminding you that you might not want to mention it.
There you go.
So anyway, the General Accounting Office and the DOJ did not oppose. They filed no opposition to my motion before the Supreme Court, saying that you've been lied to. And they've just decided not to answer it. And I went to a supervisor there when this happened. And I said, "Can they do that?" And the guy says, "Wait a minute, I want to check something." And he went in the other room and checked. And I don't remember whether it was Rule 29 or anyway. It was a Supreme Court rule, operating rule. And everybody's got to oppose it except the federal government. You don't have to oppose it. So they didn't oppose it. And naturally, it was denied. And some years later, and I might be a bit out of sequence here, but in any case, I found out that when this lie occurred, nobody ever agreed to it except one senior guy from GEO, from the Department of Justice, and they removed him from the civil division and put him in the criminal division, and so all of this stuff with the lying to the Supreme Court, I was allowed to file a supplemental brief in the Supreme Court saying it. And I did. And it's still sitting there. unacted upon. Now, that is the process whereby the audit of all federal agencies effectively ceased. And they adopted this silly idea of inspector general's offices, where and that always puts the guy who discovers something in the position of having to fire his boss in the federal government.
Yeah.
So when you try to find the root of all of this, I mean, this, you talk about a bucket of spaghetti. I mean, it's like this all the way through everything. And I wish our wonderful president Godspeed in fixing it, because it is not an easy task, even if they want to. And believe me, most of them don't want to.
Yeah.
And so it just explains how we got to where we got to somehow.
And
So
Walter,
you're saying there's probably not going to be any assist. It's unlikely, you're saying, Walter, that there will be prosecutions associated with this fraud. It's unlikely that there will be an in-depth, thorough audit of these contributions, where the money's coming from. You're saying we're just unlikely to see that because the oversight responsibility has now been shifted to the very branch of government that is participating in it and benefiting from it.
Well, I think that's part of it. Yeah, but I would disagree a little bit, because I don't want anybody to get the idea I'm saying this is an unfixable problem. It's a fixable problem, but how you fix it is you must look about the legislative fix. You've got to have a change in the laws. You've got to have the restoration of the separation of powers. And in the separation of powers, you have to have an effective audit branch of the government, the same as you got to have an effective FBI, an independent. I mean, the idea of the FBI being under the DOJ is also ridiculous, because who then in the DOJ do you put in jail, and who's going to do it?
And as you told us yesterday, Walter, which I didn't know before you told us this, there was a period of time when the FBI in this country was totally independent from the Department of Justice, as it should have been.
Absolutely. Well, it wasn't as totally free as it should have been, but now I know how to get rid of that call. So there. Anyway, that's where we are. It can be fixed, and the election can also be fixed. So, but it requires. Shall I go into this now?
Yeah.
This is short, and I apologize for the interruptions. The next election has got to be paper and pen and paper and an electric adding machine with a paper tape on it, and that's all in terms of who wins. If any electronic stuff with the corrupt systems run by Dominion and ES&S and the Venezuela cartels is doomed to failure. You can't, and no correct system can be installed quick enough. The first thing you have to do is you have to do a total audit on all of the election records. I mean, the voter registration records, because they're all corrupt too. The dead folks are there, and the out-of-state people are there, and I don't know about
fake people,
forgeries. The fake everything is there. So you got to have this audit thing that's missing is really, really important, and it is proven by the old data processing adage: garbage in, garbage out. And what the garbage starts with is the voter rolls. I mean, you can re-add them a million times, a million different ways. If they're wrong to start off with, you'll never get them right.
Yeah.
So you must have that. And the old auditor, like I be, knows how to do that. And so do a whole bunch of the old time guys, unless they've all gotten recycled out. So that there's that has to happen. And then after that happens, you're able to enter into a semblance of reality over a period of time, again supervised by audit, meaningful audit, and criminal penalties enforced
Mhm.
by a separate branch of government. You can't do it without the independence of all of these functions functioning together. But we don't have a choice. If we are going to have a country, and we're going to have a country based upon fairness, we can't let the fox run the hen house. You just can't do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how do you even know who the fox is? Unless it's
Yeah, that's true.
off that way.
Yeah.
And when we
Yeah.
know all of this has been going on since the turn of the century, it's appalling.
And
Dr. Frank said to me, I said, Doug, where does Maryland stand in the category of the fraudulent states? And Doug says, Walter, you guys are number one. I said, what? And that's how I got into all this.
Wow.
I said, that's it. But
Your
And this-
state.
and Mr. Walter,
you know, what they're saying is that we cheat better than anybody.
when
It's
you
true.
when you look at the scope of this problem, it takes a lot of people for this machine to operate, this fraudulent, felony-ridden machine to operate. How many people, what percentage of the population do you think is in on it?
I have an opinion on that, and again, this question could be easily answered with a nationwide audit. If with all of horsepower and people available to do that, but as a guesstimate, you got to separate that question into two parts. How many people are in on it and running it, and how many people are benefiting from it, knowing that it's corrupt?
Yeah.
And then you got the victims, which is all of the rest of us dumb folks that don't get it yet. See, we're the victims.
Yeah.
And how could anybody ever figure this out? I don't know, but I'm going to answer the question. I would say the governing class, Soros and his friends that are making jillions of dollars on this, is like 1% or 2% of the people. The people in the Venezuela cartel and all of the supervisors and so forth in the Dominion machines and the ES&S machines and the printers who print the forged ballots and the whole and change the forged ballots when they're told to change another 10,000 so I can pop them to Louisiana next week. I guess they're probably another 10% maybe of the population, counting the people that somehow their daughter found out about it from daddy or something. And the rest of the people, like all the people that Draza interviewed, all the ones she located from the high volume stuff, and that we actually, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the people that really know that somebody's fooling around manipulating my own bank account, not my bank account, but the record of my bank account, there's probably 20% of the population.
Wow.
Now, what are we up to now in total? Is that about 40%, something like that?
Wow.
Yeah. Well over 30.
Whatever it is, it's a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And if you talk about the typical one of these low-level implementers who are still, every time they put one of those false dings into the mechanism, it's another 5 years for me. Okay.
Prison sentence.
It boggles the mind, but that's the way it is. And recently, I made a comment that I think that the last time the President of the United States or the Supreme Court or anybody had this kind of a decision to make was right at the end of the Civil War. What are we going to do with all the traitors we just beat?
Is that what, Walter? Is that why your RICO action? How long has your current RICO action, in which you are alleging this voter fraud connected with this campaign finance, money laundering, and all of this? How long has this RICO action been pending at the U.S. Supreme Court?
Oh, well, I don't remember. What is it? About a year now, Draza? I don't remember.
So it's been about a year. It's still sitting there, but it's not been ruled
Not,
on. So it's an active
not
case.
quite that long. Not quite that long.
That's not quite right.
At the Supreme Court level, it's only been at the Supreme Court level for about 3 months.
3 months. Okay.
3 months. Okay. All right.
Now, let me say something to clarify the current status of it there. Because of my sad experience that I just talked to you about the odds of 750 to 1 and not having any money to do the $15,000 worth of printing of the booklets and the appendix and all that stuff, I decided that I'm not gambling in that game with my own money. That's even if I had that much, okay, see, to throw away. So we filed a petition for certiorari, and it cost $100. But we also filed a petition for injunctive relief for immediate and irreparable harm that costs nothing. And you didn't have to file according to the printing regs. You didn't have to file these funny shaped and booklets and all that cost $1 jillion to print. And so we filed it in regular paper. The clerk's office rejected it on the grounds of the formatting of our briefs. And I don't want them to vote on whether we have standing or not, because you don't have to have standing in a petition
Injunction.
or an injunction. So it is now kind of in limbo because there is no cutoff date, a limitation of when you have to do injunctions. I mean, the immediate and irreparable harm, as we all know, is continuing.
Yeah.
And there's no limit. And that's good because every week that goes by, Draza and her cohorts and all of the other people around the country, the heroes around the country like her, find a whole new bunch of ways they cheat. And with this body of knowledge, I mean, that snowball's rolling down the hill and we're pushing.
In
That's
the words
where
of Merle Haggard.
Well,
Walter,
now
don't they have, let me ask you this, Walter. Doesn't the government have to at some point file an answer on an injunction?
Oh, they have to answer it, but how are they going to answer it when everything we're telling you is true? The only way they got out of all this stuff with what's his name? Chris, the other Chris in Wisconsin, Berniger. He's won some cases and all, but everybody else almost has been thrown out on the grounds of you don't have standing to raise this question. Well, why don't we? Well, I don't know why. We just don't. And this is one thing we're going to address in our next filing, which is coming up as soon as we get there.
Yeah.
Soon.
Wow. Well, it is extraordinary that it sounds like you've laid out the evidence. The evidence is there before the United States Supreme Court, and it sounds like it's absolutely damning. And Walter, you said a minute ago that this will be a very difficult decision for the U.S. Supreme Court to decide on this case. Will it be difficult because they don't understand the nature of the activity that's going on here, or will it be difficult for them for other reasons to make a just decision?
I would say other reasons, and the other reasons are we don't have jails big enough, and not only that, some of these people that are doing, who are the 30% of the population that know this is all corrupt and crooked. I mean, what are we going to do with them? We can't put them all in jail. There's too many of them.
It's true.
I mean, that's a real serious problem. And not only that, you're not going to change their cuckoo heads that think wrong just by saying you're wrong. I mean, this whole situation is very, very serious in terms of actual solution to it.
Yeah.
Without huge bloodbath of some kind.
And Walter, what advice do you have for us then, for us and our viewers, our listeners? What action can we take? Because it seems like we're literally being held hostage in our own country.
It's absolutely true. Well, I would say I used to install computer systems, design and install them. I have not installed. I know how to do this. A lot of accountants and engineers and bankers know how to fix this problem. I know how to fix it. But you can't do it by the time of the next election. So what you have to do is we have to have a paper ballot controlled election with the old hand CPA methodology that worked for 200 years. It'll work for one or two more elections. And during the next one or two more elections, you must build up a bulletproof blockchain, electronically controlled, independently audited system that is good for the next 1,000 years. And am I?
No, I think you've answered it. And as a follow-up to Danielle's question, Walter, and Deraza, feel free to jump in here as well. Speaking of the paper ballot system, the secure serialized paper ballot system, from our perspective, President Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, and others have been extremely clear on their desire that we move away from machines to secure serialized paper ballots. This is for both of you. What is the likelihood of that occurring, and if so, when?
You asking me or Trust?
You feel free to answer that, Walter. I'd like to know.
I can jump in real fast and then I'll let Walter finish up. I don't see a lot of support from the people that actually run the elections to make this happen. So I believe that if that is going to happen, it will have to be forced, and there will have to be an executive order or something like that issued. I know that Colonel Reynolds was on your show and was discussing the possibility of that, and Peter Berniger has been discussing the possibility of that. I have no insight into that, but I think that that would be an absolutely beautiful thing. It would not only allow us to be free of the fraud that we have seen, but it would also allow us to get a better picture of the bend of the actual American opinion.
Yeah. Well, Draza, Walter, what percentage of the American people do you believe, if you have any way of knowing this, and Draza answer, support a paper ballot system as opposed to machines?
I don't have any idea. But I also say they don't have any choice. There's only one viable answer in our existing
Yeah,
situation.
I agree.
And it just has to happen. And should be no debate about it, whatever. It should be an executive order or a judgment order of the Supreme Court after declaring some kind of emergency that this has to happen. And then the next step can proceed in the building of a correct and viable system. And I have a patented system already that's been in functioning. That is, the patent's been live for 2 years regarding, of all things, identification and suppression of terrorists wherever they are in stadiums and in schoolrooms and everywhere else. And it's an existing patent right now. I could show you a shot of it, but
Sounds very intriguing. Well, Danielle and I here, and I know a lot of other people are aiming very, very high. And what a great day it would be if President Trump comes down with the executive order shutting down this fraudulent machine-based voting system. And then not long thereafter, or within proximity of that, the U.S. Supreme Court rules favorably on your case at the United States Supreme Court. Now, that's a day where I'll have to pinch myself to believe that I have not transported myself to the blessed isles of ever after. But I certainly believe that it can happen. And Walter, oh, by the way, Walter, my wife asked me to ask you before you go, what is your dietary regimen? Because you seem to idle faster than most people half your age run. And so we need to adopt whatever dietary regimen you're engaged in. What is it?
well, I have a couple of secrets. Okay, and when you say dietary, that's too narrow a regimen.
Okay.
The first
Your health
secret-
regimen.
The first thing you do is you appoint a very, very genetically powerful mother and dad. And
Okay. I'm with you so
Yeah.
far.
believe it or not, I've got 2 more brothers. I'm the eldest, but they're also in the same kind of shape. And my mom died at the age of 99 3/4 while she was still painting portraits
Amazing.
excellently. Now, in terms of diet, I am also, because of that genes, I am genetically able to handle alcohol. And I have a lot of my drinking buddies that have all died by now. See, many of them from alcoholism and related deeds. Now, that's a start. And then I eat everything that I want to eat. And I try to maintain my weight with a minimum of effort. It just stays this way.
So
We got a
you
lot to
eat
be
whatever
jealous
you
of.
want. Yeah, we have a lot to be jealous of. So Walter, you basically eat whatever you want to eat. You're allowed you're allowed to drink some alcohol because apparently genetically perhaps it doesn't affect you the way that it may affect others.
Well, but I do that in moderation.
Sure, in moderation.
I always have done that in moderation.
Right.
At the moment, I do it in moderation because I find that one of the blessings I have is I get horrific hangovers. I don't like to have a hangover, so I
Right.
don't.
That'll keep you from drinking too much for sure. Oh, wow. What an amazing human being. What an amazing American
Well,
you
thank you. I
are.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
God bless you, sir. And God bless you, Draza, for everything that you do. We're going to be keeping an eye on the case moving forward, and let's hope and pray for good results across the board. And we hope to have y'all both back on very soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
By that time, I'll have my phone rejiggered here so that it don't
Yeah.
ring later on.
Well, one of these days, we're going to have a glass of wine together, Mr. Walter, and talk about all this stuff. And I'm just going to sit there and listen to you, and I'm not going to say a word because you probably have experiences in your life that the world needs to know about. And I would
Well,
love to know
I
about.
certainly do. I'm even thinking about writing a book. I've had more fun than most people. I've been married 3 times and outlived all of them. Although we also all had a divorce before that. So
Do you have any current prospects?
I don't know. It might be that one on the phone.
Truly.
Yeah, I almost felt bad. I almost felt bad during the
almost
show,
felt
Walter, because I thought it might be a girlfriend calling or something. And I'm like, I felt bad you not being able to answer. So make sure you return those calls when we get off.
I'm taking applications for a girlfriend.
God bless you both.
Very good.
That's-
Thank you. And we look forward to having
Thank you
you
so
back.
much.
It's such a gift to speak with you both today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Amazing, Chris. Absolutely amazing. You know, when we were listening to Mr. Walter speak about not only the fraud, but the institutionalization of the fraud, I couldn't help but think about our own legislative session this past year, where our legislators drew up this long campaign finance reform bill, probably 60, 80 pages long, where they created a very nice, massive loophole for foreigners to be able to donate money to their campaigns. And I was just wondering if that's something that would surprise Mr. Walter, or if it was something to be expected.
I would suspect, Danielle, it probably wouldn't surprise him. Corruption tends to seep downhill.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that would probably not surprise him. But that is a very apropos that you would bring that up. Not only did they carve out a loophole in the bill that was passed, the ethics reform bill that was passed to allow for foreign donations, but they killed on the Senate floor a bill that would have eliminated such foreign donations entirely, would have put a
Yeah.
stone wall up between foreign donations and our elections or campaign propositions in Louisiana. And you and I couldn't figure out exactly what's going on here. Why will they not call this bill? Why will they not call this bill? And then we looked at the bill that did pass and we're like, well, this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. They can't do this. And then we found the loophole.
Yeah.
And sure enough, and therein was the answer for why they killed the other bill by any spell on the floor.
Yeah, because
so-
they needed WinRed and Act Blue, WinRed and Act Blue to work for them, just like it's working for the feds.
Absolutely. And in this congressional report that I just cursorily read this morning, Act Blue has been implicated not only in domestic felonious donations, but foreign felonious donations as well. So it does tie in here very cleanly for sure. But Danielle, I'm just amazed that, on a personal level, that we have a 95-year-old man here who is still litigating cases. It's like we have no excuse.
Not small peas cases either. This is not a traffic violation we're talking about.
This is not a traffic violation we're talking about exactly. And it's such an incredible pleasure to have him on. And I think he did, Danielle, answer the question maybe a little bit indirectly as to why WinRed is not being implicated to the extent that Act Blue is. Perhaps the fraud is not on the same level as WinRed, but it clearly exists.
Yeah.
And Peter Bernegger included WinRed in his report. and even included Louisiana public officials right here in Louisiana who are implicated in it.
Yeah.
So, but the reason I think why Act Blue is not included in the congressional report that's so damning, or why WinRed's not included, is precisely because we have the Republican foxes guarding the Republican henhouse.
It's a
Uh,
uniparty. It's all the
yeah,
same beast, and it's two heads of the same beast, and that's just a fact. And one thing that came out in our conversation with Mr. Walter Andraza that I think is particularly interesting is an answer to a conversation I was having with your wife Katie yesterday, which is she was saying that she really believes that a number of politicians, even at the local level, even at the state level, would have to be in on the election fraud. And I wasn't 100% convinced, because I think there's a lot of useful idiots out there. But I don't know that they're 100% read in or read in even a percentage wise. But based on what Mr. Walter said, they are read in. At least they understand what they're doing. They understand the implications of what they're doing. They are in some way aware.
you're talking about state level public officials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that is correct, and I would say that whether you're talking about on the state level or on the federal level, I have a difficult time believing that these campaign committees and by implication the candidates themselves, if not actually the candidates themselves, have either actual or constructive knowledge of what is going on here,
Yeah.
because of the nature and the character and the frequency of these small donations over and over and over again. I think you'd have to be really as dumb as an ox not to know that something is not right about all this. Now, if all this, when this breaks out, which is starting to do now, if there are criminal prosecutions associated with this, they're going to say that, look, we're just the candidate. We don't really know anything about what the campaign contributions are that come in. We're running for office. We're here, but at some point, you have to assume and be able to argue that the candidates themselves have some nexus to this, and that is what I was trying to get out of Mr. Walter.
Well, if I'm trying to think of an analogy that would correlate to this, and I can't come up with a good one off the cuff right now. But we are responsible for a great deal of things that we sign away. Like if you the amount of data that we sign away whenever you get a new phone or whenever you add an app to your phone. You agree to those long terms of service. Something tells me that the long terms of service when you apply to be a candidate with the Secretary of State or with the FEC or whoever you actually apply to on the federal level, something tells me that you do own ultimate responsibility for the management of the funds that come into your campaign, for your reporting of those funds. I don't think that you can just get off scot-free because something was happening on a mass scale that you weren't aware of. Now, maybe that is the case. Maybe a lot of people will get off scot-free for that, but I have a hard time thinking they will. And I do think that some of them are deeply in on it because, as you and I were talking before the show, Chris, there has to be a reason that the elected officials that we see in so many places, and some of the names that come to mind, Stacey Abrams, Letitia James, Latoya the Destroyer, these people do not operate as if they are beholden to the people, their constituency, right? They operate completely with disdain and as if there will be no consequences for their actions, even when words like indictment are brought up. They act as if they're completely and utterly untouchable. And the only reason I can think that they would act that way is if they knew that they were untouchable.
Very good point, which is why it is so important that there be action
Yeah.
on these issues.
Yeah.
I mean, criminal action on these issues from the top levels of government. Whether Pam Bondi is able to do this, whether she has the gravitas to do it, whether or not a special counsel will be appointed to investigate all of this, and even, quite frankly, whether or not President Trump has the appetite to move forward specifically on these fraudulent financial donations relating to both Republicans and Democrats. We'll see. But clearly, it is a massively important issue
Yeah.
with millions of American citizens having their identity expropriated and purporting to donate money to millions of dollars net to candidates, and they don't even know that it's being done.
Yeah.
And that, to me, as Walter said, anytime you file something with the FEC that is false, there are potential civil and criminal consequences associated with it. So I think it's an issue that really demands real investigation from the Justice Department and real justice. And I'm not limiting it to the Democrat Party. Both parties are
Yeah.
culpable here. All
Yeah.
you have to do is read Peter Bernegger's report.
100%. And I think this is also very, very ripe for class action lawsuits because a lot of identities have been stolen. A lot of people's um, First Amendment right has been violated by using fake money or using real money in their name. So it looks like they are speaking with their money in support of something that they are not.
Great point. The First Amendment, Danielle, not only establishes the right to speak, and speech is also in the form of action, political donations, but it's also the right not to speak. It's also the right to refrain from speaking. And when people are not voluntarily exercising their speech in the form of these donations, in fact, they don't even know that it's being done with their identity, that is a violation of their First Amendment constitutional right of speech. That's an excellent point. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have any other thoughts you want to share on that? If not, I can get to our announcements.
I'm just excited about having had these folks on.
I know they're amazing, absolutely amazing. And apologies for the interference, the sound interference. Got it figured out about 40 minutes in what was going on, but we'll get it sorted out. And if you want to listen to the beginning of this again, we should have hopefully a clean version of this out on audio and probably on YouTube tomorrow. So we'll try and get that cleaned up for everybody. But join us again tomorrow. I will be on at 10 a.m. Central for the Love of Freedom. We'll be hosting Professor David Clements. He'll be joining me to talk about what's driven him to be such a warrior for truth. He'll be talking about his new podcast. Excited to have him. And then Thursday, Chris and I will be joined by some Louisiana natives. Jason Guillory and Brandon Trosclair participated in the Secretary of State election machine demonstrations. So they'll be coming on and talk about what they saw and learned at the dog and pony shows. And I don't think we will want to miss that.
Which is exactly what it was. And you do not want to miss this because these guys were there. They saw it. I cannot wait to discuss that with them.
Yeah,
All the machines.
And one more announcement. We the People Bayou community, as many of you know I'm a part of, is hosting a Charlie Kirk Vigil for those in the area of Terrebonne on Sunday afternoon. If you're interested, you can go to WTPBayou.org to reserve a seat. But I think that will be an amazing time of community and reflection.
What a powerful, powerful impact
Yeah,
Charlie Kirk had.
absolutely.
Don't forget to donate to the State of Freedom. Don't forget to share the State of Freedom with at least one person today. Don't forget to subscribe to the State of Freedom and also to support LeCag because we are moving the ball down the field, working hard to get the word out. Knowledge is power. Never forget, knowledge is power. Help us expand our voice.
That's right. Awesome, Chris. Well, I will see you back here on Thursday. Talk to you soon, man.
God bless you.
God bless you. If you're looking to invest in physical precious metals or convert your 401k to a precious metals backed IRA, please consider making your investment with our trusted partner, MetalStacks. Their prices regularly beat the big sites and they have no credit card fees or minimums. Shipping is free for orders over $500. Just visit metalstacks.com/dwalker or get there from our website, freedomstate.us. If you're interested in the IRA conversion, drop me a message at danielle@freedomstate.us and I can get you connected with their white glove service. The secret to losing weight 2 times faster has gone viral. See the transformations hundreds of thousands of men, women, and teens are experiencing around the world with the Slender Eyes drops. These homeopathic hormone balancing drops are proven to control appetite, support thyroid function, improve energy, boost mood, and increase metabolic rate. To learn more about the drops or other incredible natural wellness and lifestyle products, email me at danielle@freedomstate.us or visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.